I spent my only day off fixing her father's roof. That night, I walked in covered in grease and sweat and heard her laughing on the phone. He's like a handyman I live with. I didn't say a word. I just left. 3 weeks later, she was sobbing in front of my garage door with her father. I accidentally drilled into my hand while working. Didn't even flinch. Just watched the blood bead around the galvanized shaft, the red and the silver. It hurt, but I kept working. It helped me focus. Her dad didn't see. He was inside, yelling at a customer service rep about a missing warranty. I just smiled, pulled the nail out, wrapped it in a rag soaked in roofing tar, and kept working. It was my only day off. I'd spent 10 hours up there in the heat, patching the same leaks she said she'd get around to before winter. Her father couldn't do it himself anymore. Knee surgeries, early onset Parkinson's. No one else stepped up. Just me. That night I walked into our apartment. Sweaty, greasy, blood on my waistband from the palm wound that wouldn't stop weeping. I was so tired I didn't notice she was on the phone. Not until I heard her laugh. She was pacing barefoot, wine glass in hand, talking to someone. Some girl, I assumed. I caught the tail end of a sentence. He's like a handyman I live with. Then more laughter. I didn't say a word. Just dropped my tool belt by the door and left. She didn't even notice. 3 weeks later, she was at my garage door, crying, with her father. You want to know the worst part? It wasn't even the cheating. It wasn't the disrespect. It was the way she framed it. The metaphor. A janitor. A man who cleans up everyone else's shit. The condescension behind the punchline. Like I was some greasy cog she occasionally let inside her bed out of convenience. She used me like drywall mud. Her name was Kira. We were together 5 years. Lived together for 3. I met her through her brother, Tyler, back when I was still driving forklifts and couch surfing between friends' places. She was funny back then. She used to build model kits and talk about owning a cafe someday. I thought she saw me. Not the job. Not the scars. Me. But slowly, that changed. The cafe dream died. She started working for a medical marketing firm. Got around new people. People with tighter clothes, straighter teeth, parents who paid their rent when they were 27. And suddenly I was quaint. She lost interest in the little things we used to enjoy. Stopped laughing at my jokes. Started scheduling catch-ups with people she'd never mentioned before. And always, after those dinners, she came home smelling like vanilla tobacco and guilt. When I asked about it, she'd laugh. You're being dramatic. So I let it go. I always let it go. Until that night. After I left the apartment, I didn't go home for 3 days. I slept in the back seat of my truck behind the shop. Used the showers at the gym. I told my boss I had stuff to sort out. And he gave me space. He always liked me. Said I was one of the only guys who never stole copper from job sites. The second night, I drove past the apartment. Her lights were off, but her car was still there. Parked straight. No scuffs. No signs of distress. So I waited. At 2:14 a.m., a black Lexus pulled up. Some guy in salmon-colored pants got out. She met him at the door in one of my old hoodies. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just wrote down the plates. The next morning, I called her father. Said I'd need to reschedule the last few shingles for his garage. Told him I was sick. He said, "You're the only one who gives a damn. You know that?" I said nothing. I didn't talk to Kira again until she showed up at my garage. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair wet from rain. Her father looked worse. He leaned hard on a cane. She stood behind him, crying like she'd rehearsed it. "Please," she said, "just listen." He spoke first. I didn't know what she said. If I'd known. "She didn't mean it," she whispered. "I was drunk. I was venting. It was stupid." I said nothing, just turned around and walked back into the shop. That's when she screamed it. "I'm pregnant." It was like a punch to the chest. My stomach turned. But not from the news. From the timing. From the math. From the memory of that night, when I'd walked in covered in sweat and heard her laughing. The same week she'd worked late 3 nights in a row. So I asked her one question. "Is it mine?" She didn't answer. Her father looked like he wanted to dissolve. I had her number blocked by that evening. She sent emails, voice memos, handwritten notes slipped under my door. She said she'd gotten scared and didn't want to trap me and needed time to figure things out. Then she tried shame. "You're abandoning me. You're punishing me. You're leaving your child fatherless." But I wasn't. Not yet. I was waiting. For the results. For the plan. For her to realize I had already been collecting data. I had the plate numbers. The surveillance. The audio. The proof. She didn't just sleep with someone else. She planned it. She coordinated it. She used me to fix her dad's roof while she rehearsed her exit. But I had something better than revenge. I had leverage. Date 1. I didn't respond to her messages. Not the please talk to me voicemails. Not the crying selfies. Not the ultrasound image she sent 2 weeks later. She thought I'd crumble. She thought that photo would short-circuit everything in me that still felt responsible for her. For us. For the mess she made. She didn't realize I'd already hired someone. A guy I knew from a siding job last fall, works in repos, moonlights as a PI. No license, just teeth and tireless boredom. Name's Deke. He does his digging from a discount laptop in the corner booth of an all-night Waffle House. Gets paid in cash and pie. I handed him the plate numbers. The timeline. The voice memo I'd recorded the night I walked in. Just her laugh, just the line. He's like a handyman I live with. I wanted everything. Who the guy was. How long it had been going. What else she'd said. And, critically, who the baby belonged to. Deke got back to me 4 days later. You're gonna want to sit down, he said. The guy? His name is Tanner. Not a doctor. Not a lawyer. Not even a colleague. He's a wedding photographer with 38K followers and a portfolio full of fake sincerity. Sunsets and backlit twirls and Instagram filters that make misery look aspirational. He's married. No kids. Until now. Turns out, Kira wasn't just cheating. She was running Tandem lies. She told him that she was single, working overtime to support her ailing dad. She'd cry about taking care of an emotionally unavailable ex who couldn't handle her ambition. She played the martyr, the misunderstood heroine. Tanner's wife, Madeline, had no idea until she found a second phone in his camera bag. Burner SIM, messages from Kira, ultrasound pics. One labeled, "Our Tiny Miracle." Madeline called me last Thursday. I knew her voice before she even introduced herself. She was the one Kira had been talking to on the phone that night. The one she'd laughed with. The one who'd said, "God, he's like your janitor or something." I met Madeline in a parking lot behind a strip mall. Neutral ground. She handed me a folder. Printouts. Screenshots. Hotel receipts. A timeline so thorough it read like a prosecution. Every lie, every overlap, every piece of evidence that pointed to one impossible, inescapable truth. The baby wasn't mine. It was Tanner's. And Kira had known since the first week. She just didn't want him to raise it. He'd already threatened to leave her. Told her he'd fix the problem if she made it public. She thought if I believed it was mine, she could escape him, pin it on me, and rebuild her image as the wronged, abandoned mother. Madeline found out and flipped the chessboard. She sent Kira a message, just one. I told your janitor everything. I wish I could have seen her face. Kira showed up again last night. No father. No tears. Just rage. She was screaming before I even opened the door. Accusing me of betrayal, of spying, of invading her privacy. I let her finish. Then I handed her the envelope. Inside, a notarized letter stating I was waiving all paternity responsibility, backed by genetic proof provided by a clinic I'd prepaid weeks ago. Anticipating this moment. Deke knew a guy. No court needed. She went silent. Stone silent. And then she broke into this wild, hysterical laughter. "You think this means you win?" she said. "You think this makes you better than me?" I didn't answer. She started pacing, yanking at her hair, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. Finally, she stopped in front of me, inches from my face. "You ruined everything," she whispered. "I needed you to play along." That's when I knew. She didn't want a father for her kid. She wanted a prop, a janitor she could control. I didn't raise my voice, didn't even shut the door hard when she left. I just stood there, breathing. And then I walked into the garage, pulled out the folder Madeline had given me, and took a long look at the final page. The timeline. The future timeline. All the events Kira had planned. January. Tell my parents. March. Fake reconciliation story on social. May. Joint baby shower. July. Move back in to co-parent. November. Claim emotional abuse. File for sole custody. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. Calculated. Cold. And almost brilliant. Almost. Update 2. I started with the closet. It was the smallest space in the apartment, and the one she never let me organize. Said it was her zone. Like clutter was some sacred ritual. I used to laugh about that. Thought it was endearing. A little chaotic. But who isn't? That was before I found the Polaroids. They were buried under a false floorboard in a shoebox labeled winter scarves. Rubber-banded stacks of old instant photos. I didn't recognize half the people. Mostly her. Always her. Different men. Different angles. Some taken at parties. Others weren't. One stuck out. She was in our bathroom. Tanner's reflection in the mirror. Time-stamped 3 weeks before she told me she loved me more than ever. I sat on the closet floor, just holding that photo. My hands didn't shake. Not anymore. They just locked into place. Like my body was bracing for something deeper than anger. I flipped it over. On the back, in her handwriting, "Janitor's toothbrush is in the shot. LOL. I didn't tell anyone about the photos. Not yet. Not Deke. Not Madeline. I needed more context. So I kept digging. Box by box. That night I slept on the couch with the lights on, the folder on my chest like a seatbelt. I dreamed of water dripping from the ceiling and laughter behind walls. I woke up to a nosebleed, my body trying to process a grief it didn't have words for. The next day, I called Kira's old landlord, the place she stayed before we moved in together. Told him I was with a management company doing background checks. Offered him $50 for 15 minutes of his time. He talked for 40. She was trouble, he said. Men coming and going. Always just short on rent, but never too short for new handbags. One guy showed up crying. Said she cut off contact without explanation. I asked for his name. He didn't know it. She called him locker room guy, like it was a joke. That same afternoon, I found something else in the garage. A blue tub I'd forgotten was even ours. Labeled Zmaz, but sealed tight with duct tape. Inside, a notebook. Leather-bound. Expensive. Her handwriting. Pages and pages of it. It wasn't a diary. It was a log. Targets. Angles. Emotional profiles. Dates. Observations. Strategies. Like a war map. And I was chapter 4. Daniel, janitor. Trauma-bondable. Needs purpose. Responds to self-deprecation plus dependency. Likely to sacrifice own needs when presented with martyr complex. I didn't breathe for a full minute. She'd broken me down like a patient. Not a partner. Not a person. Project. I sent copies to Deke. He responded with a one-liner. This isn't a breakup story anymore. He was right. This wasn't about cheating. This wasn't even about the baby. This was architecture. She builds collapse for sport. And she wasn't done. 3 days later I got a visit. 2 men in suits. No badges, but the tone was all authority. Said they were from a private security firm, representing a client concerned about defamatory material being distributed online. Translation. Tanner. He was trying to cover tracks. They asked politely if I'd surrender any physical documents related to a woman named Kira. I smiled. Told them I'd never heard the name. Offered coffee. Let them sit in the living room under the mounted frame of a broken ladder, the one I fell from patching her father's roof. I told them it was a family heirloom. They left 10 minutes later. Didn't even finish the coffee. I made sure they saw the security cameras on the way out. I called Madeline that night. Told her everything. She laughed. Not cruelly. Just hollow. Like someone finally exhaled after holding their breath for a decade. I knew she was dangerous, she said. I just didn't know she was studying people. We made a plan. And this time I wasn't just collecting data. I was staging it. The apartment is gutted now. Every trace of her. Boxed, burned, or buried. But I kept one thing. The toothbrush. Still in the cup by the sink. Not mine. Not Tanner's. Someone else's. Because the handwriting on the back of that photo wasn't Kira's. It was her mother's. And the implication behind that? You'll want to sit down. Update 3. The toothbrush wasn't the problem. The handwriting was. I've known Kira's handwriting for 5 years. I've read her shopping lists, her anniversary cards, her passive-aggressive post-its on the fridge. The loops are tight. The eyes dotted with tiny upward flicks. Neat. Controlled. Practiced. The note on the Polaroid? Loose. Why? Aggressive. And the LOL was underlined twice. That was her mother's signature laugh. She wrote it the same way in every birthday card she ever gave us. Always in pink pen. I checked the junk drawer. Still there, 3 pink gel pens she left during a visit. I snapped one open. Ink matched. So I did the only thing a man in my position could do. I drove to Kira's childhood home. Her father answered the door. Not the same man I helped that summer. This one was paler. Slower. The kind of slow that smells like antiseptic and resignation. He smiled when he saw me. Daniel, he said. I was wondering if you'd ever come around. I asked if Kira was there. He shook his head. Haven't seen her since the garage. Then he looked over his shoulder. Whispered. She's been different. Her mom too. They're working through something. I asked him if I could see the upstairs hallway. He didn't ask why, just moved aside. There were 12 photos, mounted along the hallway wall, side by side, perfectly spaced. Kira at 4, Kira at 6, Kira winning a science fair, Kira graduating. But photo 7 was gone. Just an empty frame. No dust, no damage, just missing. I pointed to it. What was this one? Her dad swallowed hard, then whispered, a birthday. Which one? He looked at his feet. 13. I didn't sleep that night. I scanned every note, every journal page, every receipt. Looked for pink pen ink. Looked for handwriting that wasn't hers. It showed up 4 times. Always on the margins. Always next to something critical. Too much emotion. Reframe. Leverage is clarity. Don't be weak like your father. It wasn't a notebook. It was homework. And her mother had been grading it. I went to Madeline with everything. She said one thing. She was trained. Deke pulled background. Turns out Kira's mom used to work at a private crisis PR firm. Specialized in image rehab for problematic clients. High-profile cheaters. Scandals. Lawsuits. She wrote scripts. War room scenarios. Then she left abruptly after a harassment settlement involving a 19-year-old intern who claimed she taught him how to weaponize victimhood. No charges were filed. NDAs were. But Deke found the intern. He's living in Vegas now. He told us she had a phrase she used for people like me. Useful corpses. You don't kill them. You ruin them. You make their silence your safety net. I knew what I had to do, and it wasn't revenge. It was excavation. So I called her father again. Asked if he'd let me record a conversation. He said yes. We met in a booth at a pancake house, no one under 70 visits. I asked him one question. When did you realize they were grooming her? He didn't cry. He just stared at the syrup bottle and said, the day she lied without blinking. Then he gave me the missing photo. She was smiling in it. Big, white, proud. Next to her, the same intern. 19. She was 13. I'm not sure what this story is anymore. It started with a roof. Then a laugh. Then a toothbrush. Now it's a pit. A hole that keeps getting deeper the more I dig. There will be no justice. Not legally. But there will be a record. Because I've decided what I'm going to do next. I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to publish them. Every log. Every note. Every image. Because the worst thing you can do to people who need a script is leave them naked on stage when the lights come on. And after that, maybe I can finally go to sleep. Final update. The leak wasn't loud. I didn't send it to the press. I didn't tag accounts or hashtag the apocalypse. I uploaded it to a password-protected Google Drive and sent it to 3 people. Madeline, Deke, a woman named Clara. Clara was the intern's sister. She runs a private group for survivors of psychological coercion, specifically ones involving image consultants and power-imbalanced PR firms. I didn't even know that was a thing until last week. She called me 30 minutes after I hit send. Her first words? You just gave us a bomb. Within a day, 3 things happened. Clara's group distributed the archive quietly, strategically, like a virus wearing perfume. They sent it to HR departments, alumni boards, and support forums where survivors had been silenced by Kira's mother's firm. Madeline forwarded it to a network of photographers Tanner had worked with, one of them being a childhood friend of his wife. Deke posted 3 screenshots anonymously on a subreddit for corporate whistleblowers. No context, just the pages titled, Target for Daniel, Janitor. Reddit did the rest. Within 48 hours, I got a voicemail from Kira. No tears this time, just this. You fucking coward. You don't even know what you started. She was right. I didn't. Madeline messaged me 2 days later. Tanner got dropped by 3 of his sponsors. One brand issued a vague Integrity Matter statement. His Instagram comments went off like landmines. He posted a close-up of his dog with the caption, Only loyalty I've ever known. Classic. Meanwhile, Clara's network traced 3 other victims. Men whose lives were vaporized the exact same way. One struggled with severe depression afterward. Another changed his name and moved to a reservation in Montana. The third passed away from substance issues 2 years ago. His last texts, screenshotted by a friend, referenced a woman who twisted the truth so hard it broke me. Same MO. Same mother-daughter duo. Different corpses. Kira hasn't been seen publicly since. Her last post was a blurry photo of a candle and the words, cleansing old energy, protecting my peace. No comments. She turned them off. Her mom? Still out there. Still employed. Still smiling in high-contrast headshots next to quotes like, "Truth is what you control." But now, every week, someone emails her clients. One line, "Would you hire someone who taught their child to weaponize false accusations?" I never wrote that line, but I read it, and I didn't delete it. Here's where it gets weird. 2 nights ago, I came home and found something taped to my door. No name, no envelope, just a single Polaroid. A new one. It was me standing in my own driveway looking up at the sky, taken from maybe 10 feet away. Timestamp, 2:14 a.m. I flipped it over. 3 words in pink gel ink. "Keep watching, janitor." I should have felt fear. Instead, I felt awake. More awake than I've been in years. Because fear is what she's counting on. Fear keeps me small. Fear keeps her clean. And I'm done being small. So I did something stupid. Or maybe brave. Depends on your angle. I taped the photo to the front door, outside facing the street. Underneath it, I wrote, "I see you too." Then I went inside. Slept 6 hours straight. First time in months. There's no poetic ending. No fiery climax. Just this. "I moved last week. New place. New locks. New air. Madeline and I talk sometimes. Not romantically. Just real. Trauma doesn't bond people. Healing does." Clara added me to her survivor group under a pseudonym. I haven't posted. Just read. Listened. The stories are all different. And they're all the same. You give someone trust. They turn it into a weapon. And then call you the threat. People still ask me, what was the worst part? It wasn't the betrayal. Not the fake pregnancy. Not the notebooks, the surveillance, the silence. It was the photo of me brushing my teeth. Unaware. Small. Background. The way a victim looks when he still thinks love is enough. I keep that photo now. Framed. Not to remember her. To remember me. And everything I'll never allow again. If she ever reads this, I hope she understands. I was never your janitor. I was the last person who believed you were redeemable. And you left me holding the mop. The only difference? Now I know how to clean up the mess for good. And how to keep my hands clean.